Hi, welcome to week 3 of our series, A Question of Faith. I am on Zoom because we are going to hear another conversation that we've had with some people within our communities this week, thinking about some of the responses that you have given us from our summer survey. And from those answers, from those responses, there are 8 questions that are forming the ideas that I have had the privilege to connect with some people around and talk about some things that I hope you are finding helpful and interesting and getting into those things. So we continue that this week. You're going to hear from Bernie and you're going to hear from Doug, and they have offered some great insight into some of the things that we're going to share and talk about and think about together. So again, as with the previous 2 episodes in this series, grab a notebook, grab a Bible. There's going to be some things you're going to want to write down, you want to engage with in your own time. We want to introduce some ideas, and that's what's going to happen next. And then at the conclusion of that conversation, I will reappear via just kind of thinking about our application for what we want to do with some of the things that we have heard. So without further ado, here is the conversation that Bernie, Doug, and I had. I hope it is as helpful to you as it was to me. See you soon. Welcome to week 3 of our series, A Question of Faith. You can see that I am joined by some friends today. I have Bernie with us from Peel Elim Community Church, and Doug is with us from Ramsey Elim Community Church. And Bernie and Doug have very graciously agreed to this conversation to answer some of this week's question: how do I stay connected to our mission? And so we're going to spend the next 15, 20 or so minutes talking about that and hearing some of their thoughts and ideas on that. So I also haven't given them any parameters for this conversation. So bear with them as they bear with me. And so tell me what you think. How do we, as communities, how do we stay connected to our mission? Does it matter? What does that mean? Tell me what you think. Speak to that.
Doug, you can go ahead.
I think, personally, I think that mission all starts with understanding where we are in our faith. And ultimately, for me, it's about God. And at the center of everything, God is the one who is, I guess, shaping us and therefore directing us, and therefore kind of asking us to reach out to others. And I think for me, mission is about a specific focus on reaching out to people, whether it's within our community, immediate community, or those who are far away from where we live. Now, I've grown up with churches who generally will send people to another country, a faraway country, and often is linked to there's a need, and therefore we need to, as a people of God, as believers, we need to go out there and share our love with those people within that community. And often there's a practical element to it, which is we're going to help build toilets or build a house or a school or something like that.
Right.
And so how do we stay connected to that? Is really, first of all, is understanding what God wants us to do, where he wants us to go, which communities, which neighbors we need to be reaching out to show his love through us too. And so ultimately, the first thing is, where is God? What does God want me to do? Before we even answer where we're trying to go to and what we're trying to do. And so staying connected is about understanding what God wants us to do, understanding what those needs are, and ultimately it's about reaching out and showing love to those communities wherever they are. And so if we are connected to God, then for me, I think he will help, he will shape, he will equip, he will direct, and he will point us to where we need to go to. Probably the first thing I can say around that.
Great, thank you. Bernie?
Yeah, for me, I think it always just comes back to the mission being to help people to get closer to Jesus. So whether it's people within our sort of faith community or whether it's outside, to try and imagine every interaction you have with any person, how can I help them be closer to Jesus than they were before?
Right.
And so that doesn't ever change for me. The mission, that's always the mission. But the way maybe we go about it on a personal level can change, depending on, the stage of life you're at, or, the people, you drift apart from like friends at times, and you make new friends. And so it's the people that you're going to be sort of reaching or hanging out with is always going to sort of change. And the way you hang out with people is going to change. I'm not at mums and tots anymore. The kids are all at school now, so maybe my workplace is going to be more of a focus in terms of the people that I'm seeing and talking to. So I think it's like I say, the mission doesn't change, but I always need to be reassessing how is best to go about that.
That's great.
Yeah,
that's great. Yeah, it's good. It's really good. I want to, I think to your point, Doug, what you're saying, that there can be this distinction between maybe a global mission and a local mission, and maybe where some are called to the wider world and others maybe feel that that's not their direction of travel. Fine. I'm interested for this conversation for us to think about locally, so not maybe the abstractions of global mission, and we love that stuff and we have that within our communities and we believe in having healthy conversations around that stuff. But I think what would be helpful for us, the three of us in this conversation, and then for people that will connect with this conversation, I'm interested in your thoughts on the language of mission locally, so right here and right now. And if I am somebody who is, I think, as you've already referenced, Bernie, maybe stages of life are important, or availability can be factored in, especially for our way of life, where we are in the world and the things that we all do. We're all, with nobody short of things to do, are they? So the practical elements of how do I stay connected with that mission, and does it matter? I really want to speak, or would like you guys to speak to that, or why do you think it's important? I don't want to put words in your mouth, that's the way you're here. So locally, thinking really, really locally, that's what I'm trying to ask you. Really, really locally, connected to the activity of your community of believers, the call of God in your life. How do you want to define that? Does it matter? And what would you do about it?
I think it matters.
Okay.
All the time. It matters all the time. And I pick up on what Bernie was saying there. It is part of who we are. And I think at the core, it's about loving and sharing love and sharing God with others. Wherever you are in our communities, in work, in a home, in a neighborhood, in school, in a shopping center, at the doors, whatever it might be. I think for me, that is the central focus for about who we are and how we share that within those communities and those people. And then it's relational, it's about relationships. And I think that it is important when we're connecting with whoever those individuals might be, to be genuine and build those relationships, really have a heart reaching out those people.
That's great.
There's no point me pretending, treating this as a job. I go in there, I do it for 8 hours a day, come away completely cut off it. It's part of me, whether it's in the morning, afternoon, evening, or when I'm at home with my family, weekends, Monday, Friday, whatever it might be. I think it runs across who I am, whether it's in conversation, whether it is in the actual doing, the practical aspects. So I think that as you ask the question, what does it look like? It looks like me living day in, day out. It looks like me eating with people. It looks like me, if you're going out for a drink in the evening, going out with those people. It looks like me inviting a colleague out for lunch. So when I go out for lunch, we will share that love, and my hope is that through that, God's conversation about God will not be too removed from that.
Great. Yeah, that's really good.
If I am about God's love, if I am a child of God, then surely my identity is wrapped in that. I cannot separate that. And therefore, as I have that lunch, have a drink, go for a walk during lunchtime or an evening, I am sharing who I am. And ultimately, who I am is about what God makes me to be who I am. So I think that's out of what my response to that will be.
Love it. Great. Thank you.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. And I guess it's that not separating. So it's not like, well, these hours I'm at work and these hours I'm a mom and these hours I'm doing mission. So I'm going to have an hour where I meet somebody and we're going to talk about Jesus. And, and it's a really separate thing. It's like, I'm at work. So how I treat people that I work with is, part of the mission.
Great.
And
Great.
When I'm dropping the kids off at school, the way I treat, the parents on the playground, or when I can't get a parking space because, the way I behave in those situations. And, like you're saying, when you meet a friend for lunch, when you go out for a walk with a friend, all of those things that you do in normal life, it's all mission. And you don't have to, it's not another thing to fit in your diary. It's not like, well, when am I going to fit this in? Because
that's really good.
It's just what you're doing anyway. It's just with that mindset that you're on mission all the time.
Yeah, that's great. That's really good.
Yeah,
that's really good. I want to ask you guys to be maybe honest about what you feel from your experience hasn't been great to encourage you for mission. What are some things that historically we don't want to live there, we don't want to hang out in what's not been great, but I think just an awareness of where we would like to move to is informed by where we're coming from. Does that make sense? So maybe some things we're thinking about mission, because again, the question is, how do I stay connected to our mission? And I think historically, I have, you'll be surprised to learn, some strong feelings and opinions about historically why people maybe haven't seen the course through, or maybe haven't stayed connected to things, or enthusiasm has waned, or people have dropped off, or it's become less exciting, and blah, blah, blah. But I'm interested what you think perhaps historically within our tradition, or more broadly in some of your experience, what hasn't helped people or you personally stay connected to the mission, and if you could speak to that would be great.
Yeah, I think for me, it's when you don't, like I said before, about sort of doing that reassessment of what you should be doing or how you could be doing things. Okay. It's sort of when you don't do that reassessing and you just keep doing something because you just feel like you should, or you feel like it's expected of you, because then you're doing it with really wrong motivations, and then it's not being done really well. And then it's pointless anyway,
Right.
So it's not going to be sort of fruitful if your motivations are like, oh well, I have to do it, or if I don't do it, who else is going to do it? That kind of attitude is not helpful. So I think that reassessing of what you should and could be doing and how is important. Just to keep your motivation right,
How I want to hear Doug's thoughts on that too, but I'm interested in this moment. When you say reassess those things, how are you doing that? What does that? I say it all the time, so I need what does that look like? Swear jar, but what does that look like? How do you reassess that? Who's helping you to do that? What are the tools that you're using to work out what?
You know what I'm going to say?
Go on.
It's always Galatians 6. We always come back to Galatians 6.
Go on.
make a careful exploration of who you are and the work you've been given, and sink yourself into that.
Right.
It's the Message version, so it's a paraphrase, but it's always been helpful for me as a point to come back to say, what is the work that I've been given, and
Right.
I'm gonna, sink myself into that. That's not a light
Amazing.
commitment. That's a,
Wow.
and then it goes on to say, something about sorry, should have it in front of me. It's your responsibility to do the creative best you can with your life.
Right.
I always
Right.
love that, and that for me really inspires me, because it is my responsibility. Nobody's going to do it for me.
Right.
So,
Really strong. Yeah, it's great. Thank you. Doug.
I definitely agree with Bernie's comments there, and I just want to add on a number of things. One is, if you are passionate about something, a relationship, and I'll say this to those who maybe listening to this message and are in a relationship of some sort. If you remember those early days,
Right.
And no one could stop you from going on about this other person in that new relationship and stuff. And so I go back to this: if you're passionate about something, now here we are passionate about God, we are passionate about his love and everything. Why on earth would we stop shouting about his love with whoever it might be? And I think that's the first question I'll be asking myself. And if you're sitting there going, oh, I'm not so sure, then maybe that's one of the things you should be doing. The second one is about staying connected to God all the time. And I have been doing these daily plans, which every single day, and often it's in the morning because I wake up feeling a bit too early. I go, you know what, get my phone, read my plan for today. And I have found that the more I do that, the more I stay connected to God, the more I'm almost re-energized to keep doing what he wants me to do. And I go to work feeling fresh with a new lease of life and going, you know what, I read those words, and I'm going to do something about them today. And I have found that those moments or those days when maybe I haven't been connecting with God, definitely there's a correlation between that and me doing something when I go out there, when I connect with other people out there. And so I think that link is very important. And then the other things is about accountability. I think that when we work together with friends, family, or whoever it might be, sometimes we need that other person to help or to challenge us to say, hey, how has this been? And I think the combination of those sort of things will help us. One thing that hasn't helped, and I know I might go on forever, one thing that hasn't helped is when I see my brothers and sisters or believers out there, saying one thing here, but actually their life is completely opposite of what they're saying. And I think that bit of integrity is so important, that we remain true to what we're saying. Don't say something and behave the opposite, because it puts up other people. And then it makes me kind of sit there going, oh my word, I've just seen this happening. Now these people have been switched off this whole thing about God. How on earth do I go in there? So I think it's important that we maintain that integrity at all times and tap into God all the time to help us, with his Holy Spirit, to help shape us and equip us and help us move out there and remain connected. And therefore we can share his love easily and freely with those who need it.
Brilliant. That's great. So we're running out of time, just as we are picking up steam, isn't it always the way? And so in summary, from what I have heard you both say, the things that are important to you and your perception of how you stay connected to mission, to focus on what God is asking you to do, to love others practically, to be deliberate about that, to go through life with integrity. Galatians 6 we've touched on, understanding the I guess the things that you're passionate about, the way that you are made, the things that light you up, and committing yourself to that, which is great. I love all that stuff, and I want to give you an opportunity, and I've said this in other weeks, but the drive to practical application is what haunts kind of me. That's the thing that we are obsessed with, because I think an exchange of ideas is important and is absolutely necessary, but I think where the rubber hits the road and what are we going to do about the things that we believe are ultimately what make a life a life. We don't sit suspended in our thoughts, but we are the application of following Jesus in our real lives. So practically, if you had one thing, or a top 3 or a top 5, or whichever way you want to rank that, the practical things that you would say to this conversation and to people connecting with this communication, how do I stay connected to mission? So the Martian has arrived from another planet, has found and followed Jesus, and is looking to you to help disciple them in their journey. What practical things are you telling that person to help them stay connected to mission?
Go on, Bernie.
I guess that's kind of what you've just described, the point of church community.
Okay.
We can work these things out on our own, but I think this is exactly the purpose of why the church is a thing, for us to figure all this stuff out together and go on mission together. So yeah, I would say to the alien, find a church.
What do you mean by that? Because I'm that guy. So what do you mean by that?
What do you have to do this to me? Get people around you that are on the same page with this, the same mission, and work out how you can help each other do that better.
Great.
And more.
Great. Thank you. Doug, your top tips for our alien friend.
Don't be afraid. Accountability is very important. So let's, as Bernie said, look out for those people who can help support us. If I'm going out to invite someone out for lunch, maybe I'll invite someone else. So I take a friend of mine with me and take that person who I'm not as connected, as close with.
Great.
And if you're afraid, then get someone else to come alongside with you. And that support can be very important. If confidence is a thing that bothers you the most, then don't be afraid to A, do it, and B, to get some help, get someone to come alongside with you for that lunch or for that walk. Totally do it and don't be afraid.
Brilliant. Guys, that's brilliant. Thank you so much. I guess we have to kind of wrap this up now. And so for us in our communities, so in Peel Elim Community Church, Ramsey Elim Community Church, we have a shared vision and mission, which is to make disciples, include people in the activity of the kingdom of God, invite people to Jesus, and to bless people. And so I guess my input to what you both have said, and to build on what you have both said, is if you are a part of those communities, or you are exploring those communities, and you are unclear about what that means or how we do that, ask and get connected. So they're kind of my takeaways from what you both have said, to be connected with people who you're going to be excited about kind of walking with kind of in this adventure. But if you're unclear, you're unsure, you've heard those words for the first time, ask the question. It's not a secret, it's not hidden, it's not some test that you have to pass. It's not, you have to have been a believer for 20 years and Doug has to come to your house for tea before you're allowed on the mission. Doug wants to be on the mission with you now. Bernie wants to be on the mission with you now. I want to be on the mission with you now. So if you're unclear, unsure, or not confident, as Doug has said about that, then ask the question, connect with your community. Bernie, thank you for your time. Doug, thank you for your time. Really appreciate you. If you want to connect with either of these guys and continue that conversation, reach out to them. I'm sure they will happily connect with you. They are going to join me for next week's conversation too, where we are thinking about how do I help people. So be sure to connect with that. Guys, brilliant. Thanks so much. Go well, and we will see you soon.
Thank you.
The idea of being on mission together is really important to me, and it's something that I hope you are catching kind of the tail of and getting excited about yourself as well. And the way that this series works is we are going to kind of feature the questions from these Zoom calls, these conversations that I've had with people, and then we want to kind of move into the practical application of that through asking us some questions. What do we want to do with some of the things that we have heard? We are forever and always consumed with application. What do we do with the things that we say that we believe? And so we are thinking about being on mission together. And just for a moment, the ask, if you like, the practical application for this week, for this message, this communication, is to ask, how is your mission going? And that will look different for each of us. There are some shared things that we do as communities. That's great. We love and we understand those things. But for you personally, how is your mission going? What are you called to? What are you about? What do you exist for? What do you get excited about? That might be your place of employment. That might not be your place of employment. That might be something that you do as an extracurricular activity. That might be something that you are working on. That might be with people or in a place or a thing that you get really animated about and get excited about. And how is that mission going? That I hope starts to make sense to you, and you start to connect with those thoughts and with those ideas. But if they don't, then I would just want to share something really quickly with you. That idea and some of that language can be really helpful, which is why I want to share it with you. But equally, I don't want you to feel disqualified if you don't have immediate answers to those things, if you don't have prepackaged answers to that question, the concept of, well, why do I do the things that I do? What is it that drives me? What am I excited about? You might not have a singular focus. You might not have one people group. You might not have one place that you're excited about. And so I want you to think about, is it well where you are? I think there's something as followers of Jesus that we get some clues and some hints about the Spirit of God in us, moving through us for God's kingdom to come where we are. And I think that can look like, is it well where you are? That doesn't mean that you're always getting your own way. That doesn't mean that things are, there's no tension in our existence. I think we know, we're all grown up enough to know that that's not how life works. And so it's not the absence of strife. It's not the removal of problems, but how am I dealing with those things? How am I connecting with people? What are my margins like? How is my mental health? How's my physical health? How's my spiritual health? Is it well where I am? And if it is, if the answer to that question is yes, and you feel like your mission is going well, I want to encourage you to bring people into that space with you. So who can you invite into what's going well in your mission, in that space where it is well with you? Who can you bring into that space? And if the answer is no, I want to encourage you to think about, well, then what do I need? And to reach out and to connect in whichever direction the answer to that question takes you. So is it well where you are? And if it is, amazing, brilliant. We thank God for that. And I'm asking then, how can you connect other people to what's well with you? How do you share what's going well with you? And if it's not well where you are, the answer to that is no, then we still praise God. We thank him for who he is. And then we make an assessment of, well, what do I need in order for it to be well? What do I need in order for my mission to go well? What do I need in order to get the best out of me? What do I need for God to be honored and glorified, and to point to Jesus in my mission? As we are a part of a mission corporately, collectively, as community, we have individual responsibility and parts to play in that. And if it is not going well where you are, then what do you need? Be honest about that and be vocal about that. Communicate that. How can we help each other for it to be well where you are? I hope that is helpful to you. If it doesn't make any sense and you're not quite sure what we are talking about, please get in touch. I really want to help us get this sense of being on mission together, being mobilized, excited about seeing the kingdom come in and through the things that we do. Be brilliant. Go well. We'll see you soon.